Hello there, good evening and welcome to this Is Ibrox. It's your Sunday session for Sunday the 17th of March. I hope you've had a wonderful Sunday, whatever you've been up to. My name's Scott Patterson. If you're joining us on tonight's Sunday session, we're glad to have you on. There's not a huge deal to speak about, if we're brutally honest with you, but we will get the next 45 minutes or so out the road and we will let you know what our take is on what has been probably a bit of a dodgy day for Scottish football generally, and the debacle from Dundee. Also tonight we will speak about our exit from the Europa League last week. I'll get the guys who are joining me tonight, their thoughts on that, and we will do a little bit, probably a big bit actually, on the international break, what it means for guys that need game time, are returning from injuries, and guys that just look like they're knackered after the last sort of endeavours for the last 6 or 7 weeks. So joining me to discuss all of this and a little bit more is John Walker. Hi John, how are you, buddy?
Oh, missing football, mate. I can't believe after Thursday I have to then miss football again. But ex-Rangers player Amad Diallo brightened up the Sunday a little bit. It's a good game to make up for losing the Rangers game.
Do you know, I actually, so we were speaking before we came on, and I was out for a meal tonight. I came back and I saw that Diallo had scored literally right at the death by all accounts. So it's good to see that he's, I think, getting a chance in that Man United team in the first instance. I actually thought he was still at Sunderland, so it shows you how much I've tracked his career since he went back down the road. Joining us as contributor number 2 tonight. Hi Andrew, how you doing, buddy?
Very well, same boat as John. We'll get to it all, I'm sure, in due course, but international breaks aren't normally my most favourite time, although I think this one is well needed.
Yes, absolutely, and we will come to that. You're absolutely right. We will come to how the international break could be good for many members of the squad. If you're joining us on our YouTube channel tonight, please get involved in the comments. Let us know what you think of what we're up to, and as the comments and as the content continues, please let us know where you are as far as the if you're agreeing or not with what we are saying. John, I'll come to you first. Listen, do you know, above all things today, we obviously knew that we were going to hopefully go to Dundee today, get a win, go back top of the league going into the international break. It hasn't happened like that, but I think generally, and we obviously look at it from a Rangers perspective, it's just a really crappy look for the game up here today, isn't it?
It just feels a little bit embarrassing. I know there's a lot of things that have been said, and I know I get a wee bit of grief today on Twitter for saying it's not Dundee's fault, but it is one of those things. It's a money restriction. I understand Dundee's position. I don't know how much detail you want to go into it quickly, but it's just sad. Like, see, when I woke up, I got a message from a Dundee fan, and they went, "By the way, I think the game's going to be called off today." It's like we've had quite a lot of rain last night, and we know from experience this year the pitch doesn't hold well. So just brace yourself, because I had obviously put out the thread, and they were quick to call it. Like, I really don't think this. That's why I put in the chat right away. I was like, I think this game's getting called off, and that ended up being the case.
Do you know the thing? So I've clocked various bits and pieces. I think tonight will be one of the. Now I've been podcasting now with Is Ibrox for a very long time, as you can probably tell. And I think tonight will be one of the very first nights, Andrew, that I give a bit of praise almost to the referee. I think we see, and Don Robertson I'm not a huge fan of, I have to say, in the first instance, so I will lead with something negative on him because I feel it's only right. But I have to say, I felt the way that he spoke quite openly and honestly to the segregating press that were waiting to find out what was actually going on at 10:20 or 10:25 this morning. Of course, by that point, thousands of Bears had travelled towards Tayside and were probably largely expecting to get in. I felt he spoke quite fair, sort of quoting the safety of the players, the pitch being the way it was. The frustrating thing for me, perhaps, is that the communication from Dundee to Rangers in this instance has been completely non-existent.
That seems to be the case. Taking Phil Clement at face value, which we have to. There was no communication prior to the kit man arriving early, I'm assuming, to put the kit out. I'm assuming he travelled separately from St Andrews to organise all these bits and pieces, and he was the kind of first one to let them know. You've got to take that at face value. Not overly surprised, same as John, regarding it. I mean, Dundee's pitches notoriously awful. There was rain everywhere last night, especially I'm in Balloch, and it was heavy rain here as well, you know. The frustrating thing is, though, it's it's probably the only game that's been called off nationwide, you know, it had to be ours. Now, I'm in a kind of position where the league's all that really matters to me. I know we're going to get into Europe very, very shortly, and what happened on Thursday night just gone. But I think it's not a bad thing missing today. I really, really don't believe it's such a bad thing to miss today. The galling aspect of it is the fact that they were all there, fans are on their way and all the rest of it. And I'm with you as well. I thought the referee spoke very well. I was glad to see him come out, in fact, and I thought whoever was interviewing, whether it was BBC or a newspaper that was asking him the questions, they were trying ever so hard to lead him down certain pathways, and he stuck to his guns. And if he believed that it was against the safety aspect for players, if the football wasn't going to be played properly, there was a danger, he's every right to call it off. So I kind of support him in that, very similar to you, Scott. I don't particularly like him as a referee either, but you've got to give applaud him today for that. I think, and when it comes to player safety, you can't take really any chances. I mean, if we went there today, it's known wide that we're leggy at the moment. We're tired. We're absolutely exhausted. It's apparent in our performances, especially late on in games. To combine that with a very heavy pitch, a Sunday lunchtime kickoff, I wasn't overly happy with the chances there. Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying we would have lost the game or anything like that, but I would rather have a fit, no fire Rangers team. I think in a few weeks' time we will have.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Listen, one thing that has became apparent as the episodes go in. I don't know, John. With Dundee, there's always a story. There's always just something lurking in the background. And CGM, who watches us regularly on a Sunday night, and indeed midweek as well, they found that a guy in Dundee who had a whistle to do inspection at 9:15. That was, of course, a local referee who was at Dens Park, who was called in this morning at 9:15 to check it out. And I believe at that point said, this does not look too clever at all. I just wonder why at that point still, do you know what I mean? It was down to our kit man to basically alert the club to there being a problem. Now, I know you're going to say it's not Dundee's fault. Let us understand that angle.
So let's be clear, it is Dundee's fault, right? There's cat and mouse going on here. So Dundee have got new owners that came in 7-8 years ago, I think, and they've wanted to move Dundee from this stadium for the minute they've come in.
Yeah.
But as we know, there is less than fuck all money in Scottish football, especially for a club like Dundee. Yeah. So they have applied for government grants that will help them build a new stadium on a new location, because their current pitch is built on a quarry that has all the piping and running and drainage through from the city of Dundee, which is why their stadium is always fucked anytime there's rain on it. They will not pay to fix the drainage because they know in 6 months' time they're going to have to do it again, and they're going to have to do it again, they're going to have to do it again. So they're kind of trying to hold the council to ransom to give them the grant to go on a new site and build a new stadium. That's the gist of Dundee's point. So they're just going, we're not spending money that we're going to lose for the same problem because it's a city drainage issue that's hitting our quarry where our pitch happens to be built on. That is an unavoidable issue. It's going to continually happen until you move us. So I think their opinion is, you know what, let's just make a fucking debacle of this and have a Sky Live game called off. Let's just make sure that these things are happening so everyone now knows that we're putting pressure on Dundee Council. And that was what I said about the money issue. See if Sky gave us a little bit of money, a little bit of better TV deal. Maybe teams like Dundee and these embarrassing pitches could be fixed and these stupid issues could be resolved, because we've played in a pitch in January in the Scottish Cup that is a very similar issue. Dumbarton will not fix their drainage problem when their pitch is literally sinking into the lock.
Absolutely, yeah.
Because they want moved and the person that wants to buy that wants to put flats up, but they'll do the push first. So Dundee, it's one of those ones where I guess I understand it a little bit from speaking to Dundee fans, that it's a problem. They want moved. They do want moved. They understand it is embarrassing, but they just do not have the money to say, let's fix a drainage issue that will continually happen until we get moved. So,
do you know, it's interesting. Do you think? So it sounded like, based on the way that Don Robertson spoke, and he said that this wouldn't be a decision for him to make, but it did sound like it was mooted that the game could perhaps be played later on in the day, John. You'd imagine Sky had kind of said, no, that's not happening because of their football or something.
Sky would have looked at the Man U game and went, no chance.
Oh.
But I think I'm hearing now that Rangers also said no to the moving. And right. I seen all the tweets about entitlement, about Rangers only wanting to play when it suits them. See if you're Dundee, I know they played on Tuesday night, by the way, I understand that. Rangers played Thursday 8 p.m. Rangers then played Sunday 5:30 p.m. They then played Thursday 5:45 p.m. and then they were due to play at midday today. See whether you like it or not, see elite football, they will have had their meals planned, the recovery planned, when they eat, what they eat for the game at 9:30 this morning. They will have done that. So see, just to say, let's just play it free, that completely knocks all the recovery protocols they've done from Thursday, 8 p.m, to get them to the point where they're playing at midday, to then just go, oh, just go on the pitch and play. This isn't amateur football. Stop. Scottish football might seem mad to some people, but Rangers are a fully professional outfit that will, don't get me wrong, Dundee will have had their meal at the same time. They will have planned for that as well.
Yeah.
But they will have been less worried because they would have last played on Tuesday and would have had more time to recover. Rangers can't just be like to their players, right, we'll have another meal at 12:30 and we'll get ready to go at 3 o'clock. You're all over the place. This is why we've already got an injury problem. I'm not messing with recovery protocols and pre-match prep. It's not as simple as just playing at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
And it's also, sorry, Scott, it's also worth noting as well, it's possibly, say it was going to kick off at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, it's to say the pitch is okay to start a game on at 3 o'clock is fine. Come 3:30 when they've had half an hour of traffic on it, that's when the problems arise as well, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think that's a fair point. Well, it would just, there was loads of people, particularly on social media, to say, you know what I mean, can we move kick-off to 2:30, 3 o'clock? I've seen people suggesting 5:15. Now imagine if it hoses down from 1 o'clock till 5:15. And it's just, you know what I mean, the Bears that are already up there, as I say, travelled up there in the thousands, would be a bit hacked off if they get told at that point after spending the day. And I often think it takes idlers in space for chewing the fat when I speak about Dundee, so I apologise if I look like I'm about to burst into laugh. I think it's a shame the game's not went ahead. I would have really liked to go in to this international break, Andrew, top of the pile, of course, points on the board, etc. Last thing on it from you, do you see it as a disadvantage that we go into this break not being top, but still knowing that we've got a game in hand over the team at the top of the table?
Not a disadvantage at all. We've shown a couple of times this season already where we had to come from behind. So at some point to get to where we are, as in top of the table, not tonight, we had to overtake Celtic. Now we had a couple of chances to do that in regards to goals at Ibrox. Ross County, there was another, was Aberdeen. We had to score X amount against Aberdeen, although we beat them at Ibrox in the night time game. We didn't score enough goals. We've shown that we can do it. Had we not done that, it might be a bit more of a concern as we sit right now. We've showed that we can. I don't think kicking this game 3 weeks down the line is a big issue at all. In fact, it's only got positives for me. Our injury list isn't massively long, but there's key players there due to come back. Not only that, there's key players just back. To fling Todd Cantwell just back, or Rabbi Matondo just back into that fixture today on that pitch, as heavy as it was going to be, is never going to be good. Okay, we've got a fortnight now to get a bit of a rest, but that fortnight could be used in so many better ways other than kicking a ball about Dundee in a quagmire for an hour and a half this afternoon. I think, obviously, you want to be top of the table. We're going into a 2 week break. You want to have that 2 week to think we're sitting top of the pile here. I don't think it's a massive disadvantage at all.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It will be interesting to see how the Dundee game is effectively rescheduled. Now CGM reckons it will be scheduled just before the Old Firm game. I wouldn't be at all surprised. I think they'll want to get that game done and out the road pre-split, you would suggest. That has to be, of course, doesn't it?
That gives you the scope of 3 weeks then, Scott. There's 3 free Tuesday, Wednesdays between the first game, which is Hibs at home, and the 30th, I believe, and the semi-final against Hearts in the Scottish Cup. There is 3 free midweeks between then. That is the split, effectively. After our last game away to Ross County, the next game is Hearts, and there's been no fixtures after that because it's this post-split fixture. So there's technically 3 weeks that could be fitted in. So it will be interesting to see when that comes.
Yeah, Cubby reckons it'll be between Hibs and Celtic, which I wouldn't be at all surprised. Andrew, it takes me quite nicely at my next point, and I'll stick with you on this. Obviously, this having an extra game probably fits in quite nicely and corroborates quite well with the fact that we didn't go any further in the Europa League, because if we had qualified and if we had knocked out Benfica last Thursday. Having this today, from a scheduling perspective, would have been an absolute disaster. However, that aside, I probably went into the Benfica game on Thursday believing it was a bit of a luxury. I'm not saying I felt like that when the whistle went and the game started. I think your heckles are up at that point and your attitude changes generally. What's your general take, not on the European football for Rangers this season, but certainly in that Europa League campaign under Clement? Happy, glad, not glad to be out of it? Would it have been a distraction for you considering what the main prize is come May?
Yes, absolutely. It would have been. But I'm with you. The minute the first whistle went on Thursday night, it was full battle fever mode. You want to win that game. But again, that's off the back of a couple of seasons ago when we came out the traps at Ibrox. Every home game and Tavernier slotted one into the back post almost every time within the first 15 minutes. I think 15 or 20 minutes was the kind of latest time that he'd done that. I fully believe that Philippe Clement has come in and got more than we could ever have asked for out of this squad of players. Yeah. To ask him to go any further in Europe is ridiculous. Really. We were never going to get to last two in this competition, as much as that pains me to say it, because there's nothing better than the Europa League run. That one to Seville 2 years ago live with me to the day I die. Every single game, home and away, every single game. I can remember the feelings, I can remember the goals, I can remember the whole emotion around the club, and even the position we were in the league at the time, the semi-final against Celtic at Hampden, which we came out and won 2-1 after extra time for the second time in 4 days. That whole era was fantastic, and this time specifically didn't strike me like that. I firmly believe that Clement has got all he can, and it's more than I thought he could have out of this squad of players. Yeah. So I think it would have turned into a bit of a distraction. Now, that's not to say I didn't want to win the game on Thursday night, but the question to me was, am I glad I'm out? And no, I'm not glad you're out of Europe, but I'm no arsed, put it that way.
Yeah, I'm a bit like that myself. As much as it was disappointing to go out, I'm a wee bit like you. I'm quite happy that we can effectively focus on trying to win a treble this year. And when you go back to how the season started, it's incredible that T word is even in our mindset and even something we can think about. John, Benfica, a better team than maybe we thought they were going to be, do you think?
I'm not sure. I didn't think they were great. I thought, from what I had watched of them in Portugal and the Champions League against Inter Milan in the game they were 3-0 up in, I thought it would have been much better. I think they're very sloppy with the ball. I thought they were kind of there for the taking a little bit. I think it was just a very open game. We were maybe a bit fortunate that they didn't capitalise on a lot of their counter-attacks when I felt we were open to be countered. I mean, I know the goal was a bit of a shambles, but I still think we had half chances. I don't know. I don't know if I thought they were that good. I felt if they were to go and draw Liverpool in the next round, they would get absolutely battered, the same as Sparta Prague did. I don't think Benfica are any better than us or any better than Sparta Prague. I think we're all of the same kind of ilk. And I guess just touching on what Andy was saying, maybe I am kind of glad that we didn't go further just in case we got a Liverpool, because I still think we're at the same stage. If we drew a Liverpool, we might be looking at a really a bit of battering again. And that's not what you want currently a title race. We can maybe take a narrow defeat with Benfica and go into the treble. But yeah, I just didn't think Benfica were that good. I think good footballers and Silva, Neves, Di Maria's class. Like Di Maria, even though he looked knackered in about 60 minutes, he's still class.
Yeah. No, I think who was the guy that kind of ran the show in the middle of the park? 80 something.
João Neves. He'll be good.
Very good. Very, very good. And I think, when you look at these players, and I think it kind of, when they're playing these guys and we're playing our sort of third choice right winger, who I don't think anyone would actually choose ordinarily, because of the right back that's been playing right wing is injured, and Ross McCausland, who's came out of nowhere and seems to have made that position one of his own, is in there as well. John, this is going to be right up your street, this question. You're going to like this, because what I would like to know is, what have you seen from the European campaign this year, sort of qualifiers for the Champions League included up to current day. What does Clermont need to do to change things for next season, assuming we get Champions League football? Floor's yours.
Maybe we don't need a centre mid, because I think Diamonde probably is the right partner, but he looked like someone that's had a run of fixtures after 3 months out injured and away from football. I think he looked really leggy, and that was the first time I'd seen that from him. So I think a little bit for him, maybe just a game too far. We need a right winger. I like Ross McCausland, but we are too reliant on someone who I'm not 100% sure has that next level. If we're looking at Cortez Sima being the level that we have on the left wing, we do not have a right winger that matches that quality. Todd Cantwell being fit would be huge, because it's been a very stop-start Rangers career from when he's in the team and flying. I keep saying this, he's our best player, but he then gets niggles and he's missing for 3 weeks. He's had more serious injuries as well. And then you know what the next part is, because my concern with Dessers and Danilo is I still remember Danilo's work rate, but missing 3 open goals against Hearts. In a similar vein to I see Dessers taking too long to hit shots and taking too long to take chances. I think Danilo is the more active, harder working. I still don't know if I've just not seen enough of him to think that he's going to be super clinical. Maybe that was just a bit of rawness. Maybe the Heart. I know in hindsight he was injured in the Hearts game, and I think that probably happened before those chances. But that just left a wee bit of doubt in my mind whether or not he's clinical enough. So for that level, you need somebody that can take one chance. You need somebody that gets Dessers' chance against Benfica and scores. Simple as that. You can't have that miss. So a right winger, definitely. Centre forward, yes. And a fit Todd Cantwell. And I think you could go into a Champions League group stage and finish third with that team fully fit, because we didn't really get, although we got a really hard Champions League group last season. But we also lost Connor Goldson, James Sands and Leon King were playing at centre half with each other. It wasn't a fair representation of where we could have been, even though I still think we're miles off it. I don't think we were a team that deserved the tag of worst Champions League team of all time, as we currently do.
Listen, and you didn't know I was going to answer that question, so I think you've answered it really well. You've answered a lot of things that I kind of thought. I think you're relying on big players having a reasonably reliable standard of fitness and form. I think Cantwell comes into that. I wonder if over the fullness of time you're looking at guys like Raskin to come into that category as well. Andrew, I mean, same question to you. Based on what we've seen sort of earlier on in the season in Europe under Michael Beale and the Europa League campaign under Philippe Clermont, I think we've given a relatively good account of ourselves, particularly in most recent times. We know that the period under Beale in Europe wasn't that great, but I think from what we've seen in the recent times under Clermont, I think we can be quite happy with the effort for the guys and the showing that they've given off, if you like.
I think so. I was reading the comments that are coming in from the people watching just there now, and I've seen a couple of comments saying that Benfica was a missed opportunity. So that kind of tells its own story, if you like. That team is littered with players worth millions and millions of pounds, far more than the Rangers players are worth. And obviously, we never held our own because we never went through the tie. But I think we gave a very good account of ourselves. There's not much needing there, in my opinion, to make a better impact next season. Okay, we're looking to get the Champions League, so there's going to be a massive jump in class. John said a centre midfielder, a right winger, and a striker to replace Cyril Dessers or Danilo, depending how he does when he finally comes back. To go to Champions League level, I still don't know if that would be enough. I still don't, because you watch Champions League games now. Okay, I don't watch as many these days as I used to when I was younger, perhaps. But the level's different. The level's so different now. You know, to go into a hard Champions League group next year, and I know it's not groups, but I don't understand what way it's working. I don't know anybody that understands what way it's working yet. So as it stands at the moment, we're talking about Champions League groups for next season. If we get paired in the wrong kind of category, if you like, next season, it could still wind up embarrassing replacing with a clinical striker and a decent right winger, more better than McCausland. They could still end up a wee bit iffy, if you like. I think our level is latter stages Europa League, and I think that's doable every year. Really, I really do. So next year, obviously, that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for the Champions League to get there and see what happens in the summer when it comes to transfers. Interesting to hear Clement mention that he's already spent the summer's transfer money, if you like. So it'll all be to do with who we can get out the door before we can get players in. But to answer your question, I think we gave a really good account of ourselves. That's domestically as well. Considering where we were back in October to where we are now, talking about a missed opportunity against Benfica, it's fantastic.
Yeah, no, I would tend to agree. I actually thought when the draw was made, I felt when the draw was made, Benfica was quite a decent tie for us. So it probably ties in a little bit with what you were thinking, John, that they were you could get at them and maybe have a right good go at sort of progressing through the tie. And I just think over the piece, I just think that game, particularly the game at Ibrox, I think it just became a bit too stuffy for us. I'm not going to speak about the goal because I know you'll be in the Berger corner if we go into too much detail on it based on what Cyril done up front. I don't want you to do that live on YouTube. What I do want to do now, though, and I will stick with you on this, John, is I'll go into I want to speak about the international break that's coming up. So international breaks, I don't know if I'm ever a fan, probably because I'm not a great fan of the international setup. I don't know if I'm ever a great fan of the break when it comes up. In this instance, however, based on the appearance of John Lundstrom and Diomande, who you've alluded to, Tom Lawrence on Thursday night, all looked visibly shattered. That break, I think, will be really important for them over the next 2 weeks.
It just brings a bit of stability to training as well. See, being out of Europe, that's going to really help us in that. So pretty much from now to the end of the season, barring the Dundee game, we can have a pretty regimented Monday to Friday schedule, preparing for game recovery. You should, he says, fingers crossed, and remembering that it's still Rangers we're talking about, you should start to see players settle and injuries not occurring. The only problem we do have is those going on international duty, because what people just won't accept is you're going from a completely different culture, from a style of training to shorter, sharper sessions where it's more match orientated. It will not be the same type of setup. It's why Kieran Tierney used to always come back to Arsenal, then be out for 4 weeks after going away with Steve Clarke. He'd have a specific type of training regime. That's why I was very against him being part of the Scotland squad in this window. And then comes back and was always, Kieran Tierney always came back from Scotland duty injured. Always, every single time, was injured for Arsenal for 3 or 4 weeks. And it's just that adaptation. It's so difficult to do. So I'd be looking, Ryan Jack did it quite a lot. The Rangers would go to Scotland camp and then a day later would be back injured. I think people just don't understand that when you train, so when somebody trains away for 9 months and then goes to a different team for 5 days and trains in a different way altogether, it can injure people. That's why clubs are so strict on how they do certain things and why certain teams don't like players going away on international duty. So that would be one concern. People like John Twitter changing his whole training regime when we've actually finally got him fully up to speed. So players we're missing, I'd be keeping a close eye on. But for the people who are staying at home, we might actually start to see them get back and continually be at levels, which would be nice.
Yeah, no, I think, as I say, it's one of these things that I just think when you've looked at and you're aware, John Lundstrom's a prime example, I think, of the effort that he's put in since Philippe Clement came in. I think wildly felt that he was Beale's boy when Beale was there and he was playing, and it wasn't. Do you know what I mean? Let's be honest, John Lundstrom wasn't playing particularly great football under Michael Beale. The flip side of him since Clement came in, Andrew, has been quite incredible, to the extent where I think with contract extensions coming up, and we will get to contract extensions probably the next 20 minutes or so, but with contract extensions discussions sort of just around the corner, I think now John Lundstrom is someone who you would unquestionably review, whereas 6 months ago, I think people would be thinking that there's no danger he's getting a new contract. Indeed, maybe pre-Christmas people would be saying keep him out in January because his form under Beale just wasn't good. Now, first name of the team sheet are an absolute monster. However, I think you're seeing now that based on the continuous games that he's playing, he does need this rest. He needs the break.
100%, it does. I was one of them. I can't remember who I was on with one night, pre-Clement, and John Lundstram was on my list as players that I didn't want to see here any longer. You know, you're just scunnered with what looked like effort, which is obviously now tactics or behind the scenes. We don't really know the ins and outs. Don't want to know the ins and outs anymore. But the transformation in John Lundstram is frightening. The engine he's got on him, and I think the way we play, he's got to have an engine. He's got to have an engine and get from box to box, for want of a better expression. And he's definitely got that. And for want of a better word, he's fucked. He's absolutely exhausted. And that's you can be the biggest professional, you can be the fittest guy in the club. When it comes to playing match after match at different levels, with different levels of intensity, you're going to get like that, you know. And it's very visible. I thought the other night with John. In fact, I thought it was visible in Lisbon. He was absolutely exhausted. Lawrence, he's in the same boat. Tavernier, Goldson, they could all do with this rest. And I'm with you, Scott. I'm not the biggest international fan. Love the World Cup, love the Euros, and I'll watch them in the summertime. But it comes to club football stopping, not a big fan. This one I really, really am. We've got the potential to come back after the winter break, even hopefully a couple of players up. Now, I know we're not going to see Cortez again this season, depending where you look and what source you use, about Danilo coming back, Sima coming back. But I think it's also important that we don't have game after game after game with likes of Cantwell, Matondo, all just coming back. Sterling, I don't know if Sterling was ever declared injured, was he? Was he actually declared as an injury concern? I don't think he was. He did tweet out back soon or something like that, which gave that away a wee bit. But a wee rest of no harm, put it that way. We're using him anywhere and everywhere, really, and for obvious reasons. He's doing frighteningly well. So no, I'm a big fan of this wee break. I think it's came at a really good time.
So sticking with you, Andrew, because I think we largely agree that the break for 3, 4, 5 members of the squad, I think, will come at a really good time. It maybe isn't the same case for a Nico Raskin, for example, who has had a long layoff through injury and has been used a wee bit sparingly of late. I imagine you would probably have seen him today at some time or another. He's now going to have 2 weeks of no football. I'm not entirely sure of his international status if he's away with Belgium. But in this case, maybe from his perspective, the break maybe works in an opposite sort of favour, in the sense that he's maybe just not going to get any time in the grass, for want of a better term or expression.
I suppose it does when you look at it like that, but then you could flip it, and perhaps it's just me being a wee bit too harsh here. I don't think he's done enough to warrant moaning about playing for 45s or 60 minutes or starting a game. And even at Dundee today, it probably would have been used. I think he would have been used, whether it be from the start, I don't know. Probably not, in my opinion. I would have liked to have seen a wee bit more from him since he's came back from injury. I know how hard it is to come back from an injury. You see it all the time, and it's notable. I would just like to have seen a wee bit more. But you're right. You're 100% right, Scott. For everybody that it helps, there'll be a player that it probably hinders. We've got to hope that the players that it helps are the 4 or 5 that need it, who start every single game for us and normally play the 90.
Yeah, no, absolutely. John, Raskin, I think the last time I was on with you, I think we spoke and we suggested that, I think my suggestion to you indeed was concerned about Raskin. I don't think it's me, Andrew, saying that you're not in his mouth. I do wonder if you felt that the break for Raskin maybe isn't such a good thing, because he's not going to get the opportunity to be involved, to play, to get on the grass, to play with his teammates. And it maybe comes back to the point you made earlier on, when these guys are away on international duty, they're training with different people, they're mixing with different people, their coaching is generally different from what it is at their club. So Nico Raskin's situation is maybe a little bit different to the guys that we spoke about earlier, Lawrence, Lundstram and Diamande.
I'd be very surprised if we don't have some closed-door friendlies, even if it's in our squad. We'll have stuff on over the next 14 days to get those players. I think Raskin, somebody needs a full 90, a couple of 90s, and unfortunately we're running out of games. It's just you can't get injured in the middle of the season and expect to get back in there. And we've addressed those areas. It's just can't have passengers now. There's not enough competitions for us to be using people sparingly. We've had tough games. If the last round of the Scottish Cup had been a home tie to somebody in a lower league, yeah, Raskin might have got 90 minutes. But being away at Hibs, it was a job that was too risky to give people minutes in the legs. It's just the nature of the beast of where we are just now. Had we actually, ironically, had no chance of a title the way it was looking like 2 months ago, he might have got more minutes in the league and we might have been focused on cups, etc. But we're too busy in a title race, so there's no passengers. He's just going to have to wait till pre-season to get his game time. But I do think he'll play some sort of closed door friendly on Saturday.
John, I'll stick with you because one of the things that I think is, and it all came about this morning, I should add, Diomande picked to go and play for Ghana. Huge deal. Great for the boy himself. I think it's great recognition for how well he's played since he came across here. So a real good news story for everyone concerned, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it's one of those ones. So see if he hadn't looked so leggy on Thursday, I'd be like, brilliant. That's us getting another international player. But then I'm like, no, he's not going anywhere. He's just come back for injury, played 6 games in a row, looked a shadow of himself against Benfica.
Yeah, he struggled.
I don't want him going in international duty now, but also you do want international footballers at Rangers because that just does raise their value all the time.
Of course. Andrew, when we speak about international footballers, it's been it's probably been quite a long time since I think we could speak about maybe a goalkeeper being the Rangers' number one, being a country's number one, or even in and around that shout. McGregor maybe in most recent times. Story last week emerged that it looked like Jack Butland was going to be picked by Gareth Southgate as one of these 3 keepers for this final sort of camp that I think they're having. And I think everyone largely expected, I mean, Sky Sports effectively ran a story on Jack Butland being one of the 3 goalkeepers. He's then not selected. Surprised at that, Andrew?
Yes, but that may be blue tinted. When you look at the Sky Sports article or that Sky Sports segment that they showed you the stats of all the possible goalkeepers that were going to be picked. Now, Butland's blew everybody's out the water. So in my head, it's nothing but snobbery. It's Gareth Southgate sat down and went, yes, he's got these clean sheets, but he's playing against X, Y, and Z. Now, I don't really know much. I don't watch a lot of English football. I used to be an avid Super Sunday fan, but I don't watch a lot of the Premier League football anymore. Although I watched today's FA Cup game, it was a great game. So I don't really know too much about the England goalkeepers, and I don't avidly watch international football. So I don't really know much about who'd be getting in front of, etc., etc., etc. But I think to not give him a call up for a couple of friendlies prior to a Euros, that's just he's not going to be picked. He's not going to be picked. He can do no more this season, I think, than what he has done. There's talk of him being Player of the Year. Nationwide, length and breadth of the country about how well he's adapted, how well he's doing. I think how well he speaks to the camera is utterly fantastic as well. Future captain material, perhaps, if he's still here. That kind of way. I thought the way he answered the question about not being picked on Thursday night before or after the Benfica game, like a professional. Absolutely loved hearing the way he spoke like that. I just think it's a bit of snobbery from the England camp here, in not picking him. There would be no harm putting him in that squad and getting them down there for these couple of friendlies they've got, one friendly, I don't know what they've got. I don't see any problem with that. I think it's just snobbery. Disappointed for him because he'll obviously want to play for his country, so I'm disappointed personally on his behalf, if you like. But selfishly, I'm not really that bothered. He's still going to be Jack Butland to me. He's going to be a good goalkeeper for us. I'm quite sure of that. And it's now he's a linchpin. He's a linchpin of our team now. And Rangers goalkeepers generally are, albeit a couple of dodgy ones flung in there over the years. On the whole, I've been very fortunate, as have you, Scott. I think we're of similar vintage. We've always had a good Rangers goalkeeper. And this guy ticks all the boxes too. I remember in a podcast, it was only 2 or 3 games into the season, but he didn't start well at all. And I think I can't remember the exact statement he made, but it was along the lines of, I don't, might have been out of context, replicating McGregor. And I remember thinking, God, don't say that, son, because that's such a high bar. But he's got a long way to surpass that, but he's going the right way about it, is what I'm trying to say. So I just personally think it's a wee bit of English snobbery.
John, the word snobbery's been sort of passed about quite a bit since sort of Thursday afternoon. I have to say, I was stunned Jack Butland wasn't called up for the England squad. As part of 3 goalkeepers, I was really, really, really surprised that he wasn't called up for this camp.
Yeah, for me, it's I kept saying this, and if any, I'm sure you can find a tweet. I tweeted this about 2016, 2017, talking about Fraser Forster when he was at Celtic, and I talked about the England goalkeepers at that time, saying that, see, for as much as Scottish football is dominated, see the way England were moving with the national team, the context of what an old firm goalkeeper can do is exactly what an England goalkeeper does.
Absolutely.
They're more ball players with their feet, they're more sweepers, and see the concentration factor of maybe only facing one shot a game. It's unique. It's unique in people that are built in it, and that was why I thought Fraser Forster at the time was nailed on to be England's goalie at the time, because this was when they were still struggling and wheeling out keepers that were relegation cannon fodder keepers. That's changed a little bit now, because although Jordan Pickford with an Everton side battling, whenever he's played for England, he's been good. So you can't really say much about Jordan Pickford. This was never about England's number one. I think Pickford, if he's fit, is always number one. Ramsdale's on Arsenal's bench, and he's only played 2 games against Brentford because the number one can't play against Brentford just now.
That's right.
Johnston is Crystal Palace's goalkeeper. You've got Nick Pope, who's been decent at Newcastle, but see, when Newcastle have been dominating games, Nick Pope has been liable for being that sweeper keeper. He's not the same thing. I just felt like Jack Butland was the perfect fit for the number 3 role. And in my head, I was looking at it going, see if Jordan Pickford got an injury between now and the end of the season that ruled him out of the Euros, Jack Butland will be back in that squad, because they don't have that experience kicking about. They need somebody like they would then need to jump to him, and then you'd be going, is Jack Butland the number 1 now? Does he jump from 4th or 5th to 1 just because he's been at the World Cup? Does he then take that role? And because he has played more than Ramsdale, although I do think Ramsdale's attributes are very similar to Jack Butland, he could do it. But you're not going to put somebody in your number 1 at the Euros. I know it's all hypothetical, but I had that conversation with my brother where I was going, see if Pickford got injured, Butland would go to the Euros. That's almost what, and it becomes a weird scenario that I think would have been avoidable if you took Butland to this squad and something happened to Pickford. You go, well, you've got the experience here, maybe Ramsdale still plays. But a lot of people have said this about Southgate with Henderson and stuff, is he makes a rod for his own back by picking people, by saying things about Henderson, about how good his form's been, whilst there's Preston Holland slaughtering his performances, and then he gets turned over at Aston Villa and gets made to look an absolute mockery of for the first goal. You're going, this is actually why, despite Gareth Southgate's pretty remarkable England record in recent history, England fans still don't like him, because they do not like the way he picks squads.
Aye. No, you're absolutely right. As I say, I was really surprised that he wasn't involved. I mean, I personally think he's a better keeper than Pickford. I think he's a better keeper than Pickford. I think he's better than the other 2 that have went as well. I think the other goalkeeper who they thought may have been in and around is the boy at Burnley, James Trafford, who I think Company dropped at the weekend out of curiosity. So, and I think, John, I have to say, I think your point about having a goalkeeper that's switched on for that moment when you're needed is really important. We've said in this podcast before. Sorry, John, on you go. Sorry, mate.
Yeah, just to jump in that, there's an interview doing the rounds of exactly that point between, and I think it was something, I love Arsenal, right? So I will eat up all the Arsenal content as well as Rangers on Twitter. And it's shown an interview with David Raya, who, by the way, I was very sceptical of, because I thought Aaron Ramsdale was a good number 1 for Arsenal.
Yeah.
And it's shown an interview of Aaron Ramsdale in a podcast he did during the summer, just before Arsenal signed Raya. And David Raya it's a side press conference, and David Raya is asking what the biggest challenge being at Arsenal is. And he goes, you have to constantly be dialed in. So it's constant. You can't have a moment where you're watching the team play. You have to be watching where the opposition are, where you're going to get countered on. Do I need to leave mine? Do I need to go? side by side to that is Aaron Ramsdale saying he struggles to concentrate for 90 minutes when Arsenal have all the ball.
Yeah.
And he'll sometimes find himself listening to the fans singing songs and kind of disappear and look elsewhere and shut out for 30 seconds, then have to get tuned back in. And I'm going, that's why you're no longer the Arsenal number one, and why you're not fit enough to be the England number one, because you do not have the attributes or characteristics that they require. Jack Butland has shown this season that he does have that, and that was what surprised me. It was just so lit up in one interview.
You know, I've said it before. I really believe, and Andrew, you're absolutely right. We are of a certain vintage where we've seen many great goalkeepers. I go back to Chris Woods, Gorham, McGregor, Stefan Klos. They've all been fantastic. Butland is right in that chapter now, as far as I'm concerned, and deservedly so. His end of season reel for this season, his first season in Glasgow, is going to be something else. And I think it would be a smart man's betting that would put him down as the player of the year, and they would get it, deservedly so. Listen, it's 9:15. What I'll do is I'll do a little bit on 2 out of contract players that I want to speak this about. One, Andrew has done a bit of speaking this week. I think Kemar Roof done a piece with the press, the written press indeed, post-match Thursday. I think everyone knows technically how good Kemar Roof is. From a reliability perspective, I think that's certainly questionable because we've not seen enough of them for the time he's been here. He's not getting a new contract at Rangers in the summer, is he?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. He can't have. It's as simple as that. I love Kemar Roof. We've not seen what he can do yet since he's came back. This might be the longest he's been back for a while. He's took part in 3 or 4 games consecutively there, but okay off the bench or whatever. So this seems to be like a long run, Kemar Roof wise. This is long, and I do rate him and I do like him, and his goal against Braga in extra time, and what a game that was. I mean, the ball in the net 3 times, and the last time counted obviously in extra time. What a night, fantastic. I'll always remember that. But I'll also always remember the mood and the words that came out of my mouth when he limped off a pitch yet again, just in the middle of an injury crisis. You know, I can't repeat. Okay, it's after the watershed, but I won't repeat what I said when he limps back off, because I fit Kemar Roof. I don't buy into him being the best striker at Rangers or anything like that. I don't think that's probably the case anymore. But he's an asset. He's an asset to have. And when he's not available, it's something that can hurt you, you know, and it's just one of the things when you look at the injury list, you list who's injured at the time. This has happened countless times in the last couple of years. You list who's injured and then somebody goes, and of course, Kemar Roof. Yeah. That can't go on anymore. That's nonsense. I've seen a wee snippet or 2 about wording a new contract for him. I think it would be utter madness. I don't see it happening when you've got Phil Clement saying that he's already spent some dosh from the summer, and you're going to be looking to free up wages or move players on. To offer an injury-prone Kemar Roof another contract would be absolute madness, in my opinion. I do not see that happening. So
I completely agree with you. Interesting, RFC 72 jumps in the chat. One of the things he says is he's starting Roof against Celtic ahead of Dessers. John, oh goodness me. Go on then, tell me, what are you doing? If you've got an option to start Roof or Dessers against Celtic on the 7th of April, look at him thinking, gee whiz, this could go on. What are you going for?
I just can't see Kemar Roof starting another game for Rangers. I just can't see it. I don't know if there's a mentality block, if he's better being just used as 25 minutes when you need him, but I just can't see Kemar Roof starting a game for Rangers and finishing it, and I can't see him ever hitting the levels that he showed potentially he could do when that Gerrard year, that COVID season.
Yeah,
Kemar Roof being fit is just never going to happen for Rangers. I think this is all we can get from him now, is just sub appearances between now and the end of the season, and hope that that's not too much for him and he can continually be there. Because I think in lesser games, if we need goals, if we need somebody to see out, Kemar Roof will be effective in the last 25 minutes. I just don't think he can start games anymore.
Same question to you, John. Ryan Jack.
Oh, Ryan Jack's a sad one, but you cannot give Ryan Jack another contract. The only thing is, I think people would be surprised at how modest Ryan Jack's wage at Rangers appears to be. So if you were able to get him down on that again for a year rolling contract, it's not that much if he's able to be fit for half a season. It's not a lot of money. It's less than some of the younger boys coming through will end up with professional contracts if they get them. So I don't know if Ryan Jack's is big a risk, but that's just a financial option. It's just a shame. Ryan Jack, I still think Ryan Jack's a cracking midfielder. It's just same issue as Roof, mate. Same issue as Roof. They're just not able to offer what they did. And there is, I know somebody said the word sentimentality. It is a bit of that. It's hard to say bye to Ryan Jack because he was the one Fake Seniors lot that I went, he'll be good for us. And I know we're terrible now, but he'll be important. And if Jack Davis and Kamara, like that was the peak of the last 7-8 seasons as a midfield.
Yeah. Connor Barden would be a decent replacement for him, John. I know you agree with that.
It's just such a no-brainer, mate. It's just so low risk. It's a very similar footballer. It's another person that takes corners and set pieces. He ticks all the boxes you would want, even if he's only ever going to be a squad player that fills a quota. He ticks everything. I know everyone flagged up his injury record a year and a half ago. It was one injury that continued. He's been fit for a year and a half now. Yeah. And he's played a full year of football before that. He's Scotland under 21 vice captain. He plays for the under 21s, plays in a good midfield in under 21s. He's an absolute no-brainer for the same money as Ryan Jack as you're getting somebody 10 years younger.
Andrew, last word for you on Ryan Jack. Contract extension in the summer or not?
Probably not. Sentiment, same as John. It's such a shame. It's such a shame. And I agree with John again. That was the peak of the midfield. Kamara, Jack and Davis. That's a fantastic midfield. It was a fantastic midfield. Again, it's just another one that you see when you list the injuries, and of course Ryan Jack, and that can't be allowed to continue. Sadly, if you could be guaranteed half a season or 75% of a season for the money he's on, if John's correct in that, and it being modest, a year rolling deal. Would he accept that? I mean, we're being sentimental about Ryan Jack. He might be sentimental about Rangers, but somebody will take a punt on a 3-year deal for X amount of money on him, and he may well just go there. So for me, sadly, and I do mean sadly, Ryan Jack, that would be a no from me, Scott.
Yeah, I wouldn't be at all surprised if Ryan Jack disappears to the States for a year or so and plays the sort of similar card as Scott Arfield has played, which would be, I think, quite sensible, to be honest with you. Short career and all that. I think he's one of the ones that in the summer we'll thank for his time and let him pass on. Andrew, good to have you on, buddy. I appreciate your time on a Sunday. Thank you.
Absolutely no problem. We've made a good 45 to 50 minutes out of a non-game of football there.
I know, I don't know how we managed it.
I know, I've actually got the last episode of The Gentleman to go and watch, so it's dragged on a wee bit here. Anytime, Scott, loved it.
Good man. John, good to see you as well, my friend. Thanks for coming on. And I don't think you've combusted with a few mentions of Cyril Dessers as well, which has been good.
No, thanks very much.
Don't forget, if you are following us on our YouTube channel, please subscribe, ring the bell for notifications every time we release any content. It helps us grow, and of course, as I say, you'll get a notification each time we put something out on the channel. We are across social media on Instagram, Facebook, on X. We have 3 accounts on there. This is Ibrox, and at TII Youth for the B team in the academy, and at This is Ibrox RWFC, the women's team not having a good result away to Celtic today. I should say that Kendall Matthews and I will be at the Sky Sports Cup next Sunday from Tynecastle. We look forward to that, and we'll keep you abreast of everything that's going there across our channels. The guys are back Wednesday. I don't have the schedule in front of me, so I couldn't even tell you who's on, but they are definitely back on Wednesday 8:30. Join them if you can. Thanks for watching. Bye for now.